This morning, I'm so grateful to God standing here in the house of God. I believe, as David said, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go to the house of God. So, coming to the house of God is something that, Sunday again? No, that's not the deal. It should be, yay, Sunday again. Let's go and do it. It's a joy thing. Going to a vacation, it's fun. Going to the beach, it's fun. Going to California, it's fun. I believe going to the house of God is the biggest fun. It's the greatest joy. And that's what David said. I considered the house of God above all the joys of my life. If I forget, God said, if I forget Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its working. The house of God is something essential. And I am blessed to grow in the house of God. My father has been a pastor, and I had the privilege of growing in the house of God. And I'm so grateful to God, for God has blessed me. But coming to the house of God, we all have our own different ideas, right? We all have our different, if I don't go to the church, our pastor is very particular. He would keep calling and say, why are you not there? Hey, we missed you last Sunday and you should come. And if you miss 2 Sundays, he'll be after your life. So let's go. I go to the church because there is a restaurant right beside the church and I love eating there. So every Sunday, let's go to the church and barbecue after that. I go to church because I'm Christian. If I don't go, the devils would be unleashed. I need to go to the church. I go to the church because I get to meet my uncle and auntie, because they always come and they always bring amazing cookies for me. This young boy, mother came to him and said, hey, get up. Oh, mom, please let me sleep. Get up. And she's trying to wake him up, and he's not wanting to get up. And mother said, get up. You got to go to the church. It's Sunday. You got to go to the church. It's Sunday. Oh, mom, please let me sleep. I don't want to get up. And he said, give me 2 reasons why should I go to the church. The boy said, mom, give me 2 reasons why should I go to the church. His mom said, sure, I will give you 2 reasons why should you go to the church. First, you give me 2 reasons. Why should you not go to the church? It's a Sunday. You need to go to the church. You are a Christian. Give me 2 reasons. Why do you not want to go to the church? Oh, mom. Firstly, the church is very boring. That church is very boring. Secondly, nobody in that church loves me. So the mother was kind of a bit strict. She grabbed hold of the ear and said, hey boy, 2 reasons why you should go to the church. Firstly, because you are 40 years old. And secondly, you're the pastor of the church. So you must go to the church. You got to go to the job. So kind of dragged his feet and came to the church. But I'm just wanting to let you know, no, it is not the reason because I am 40 years old and I have to come. No, I'm not here because I have to come. I am here because it's a privilege for me to come into the house of God. It's a joy. Prophet Jeremiah, somebody asked him, what do you think about the church? What do you think about the house of God? And he has given the amazing definition of the house of God. And I just want to turn with you to book of Jeremiah, chapter 17. From there, we start the text for this morning. Book of Jeremiah, Prophet Jeremiah, chapter 17, starting from the 12th verse. The house of God, the church. And it reads like this. It said, Book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, verse 12. A glorious throne exalted from the beginning. A glorious throne exalted from the beginning is the place of our sanctuary. The house of God where I walk in the presence of God when I walk in, when I go to the church every Sunday morning, I don't come to the church because I'm just going to the Legacy Church. But when I walk into the doors, I have this realization that I am going into the throne room of God. I'm coming to a place. He said, for him to understand this, what the church is, he said, it's a glorious throne. Firstly, it's not only a throne, but it's a glorious throne on an exalted platform, on a raised platform. And I understand there is nobody else who's seated on that glorious throne. There's nobody else, no pastor, no evangelist, no individual, no businessman, but the one who's standing or the one who's sitting on that glorious throne is God the Father. He's the Savior, Jesus Christ. Any church that had anybody else on that elevated platform, on that glorious throne, it cannot be church. It can be an annual body meeting, AGM. It can be a social club. It can be whatever you can think of. But if God is on the throne, it's got to be church. To me, the house of God is the glorious throne. Every time when I get up, every time when I come into the house of God, every time the doors are open, I have the understanding, I have the realization, I am going into the presence of God. I am going to a place that is called the glorious throne, on the exalted platform where I would meet the Master, where I would meet the Creator, where my prayers would be answered. The world around me is gloomy, dusky, and dim. But I'm going to a place where the glorious throne is there forever and ever. No more sorrows, no more tear, but my prayers will be answered. Jeremiah, thank you very much for letting us understand what the house of God is. It's not just a building. In India, we worship in all different kind of locations. We have these good church buildings. Then we rent places. When we say we rent places, we rent the hotel lobbies, we rent the auditoriums in the schools, we rent small classrooms in the school, and sometimes we even have to rent small places, and sometimes it's not very good. But believe me, in a place that kind of stinks, it's a place where there is very little space, 100 people in that crowded room, sitting on the floor, sweating like anything. But when we worship, the presence of God is there. Because God is not looking for cushioned seats. God is not looking for the air condition. He's looking for the prepared hearts. And He has no problem. I got problem when I'm unable to park my car. I got problem when I have to share or shift a bit. But I believe He does not have any problems to place His throne if it is a bit crowded, if it's a bit muggy, if it's a bit sweaty. He enjoys it. And this is what Prophet Jeremiah is helping us understand. You know what the house of God is? It's the glorious throne. When you walk into the house of God, when you walk into the presence of God, though it be at the temple of Solomon, amazing, wonderful, beautiful, or maybe a small hut. But remember, if it's the house of God, if the presence of God is seen. The problem in nowadays world is there are amazing, magnificent buildings, but a lot of those buildings where you have these big, huge bells ringing. But the problem is the glorious throne is missing. I pray, Lord, let this house be a house where people, those who walk in even for the first time, can see the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords exalted, can see Him sit on that glorious throne. The house of God. What is the house of God? To me, it's a glorious throne exalted on a high platform. When you want to look something into the Word of God and want to get the real understanding of that particular word, the philosophers said, go and see where it is mentioned for the first time in the Bible. If you want to know about forgiveness or love or faith, go to the very first place where that particular word has been mentioned. And that will help you understand the exact meaning of that word. So, I wanted to know about the word of God. The house of God. How can we really understand what does the house of God means? His God is abode in heaven. But what does the house of God means? So I was looking for the place where there is the very first mention of the house of God. That's in the book of Genesis, the seed book. Book of Genesis, and coming to the chapter 28. No, it was not the temple of Solomon or the tabernacle of Moses. Much before that, Bible has a record of the house of God. Book of Genesis, chapter 28. And starting from the 16th verse, just the background of his was, this is a story about Jacob and his brother Esau. The story of Jacob and his brother Esau. You know the story. Jacob is a smart guy, right? He knows how to get things for himself. He can cheat anybody to get his way out. So what he did very smartly, he kind of deceived his father. He cheated on his brother and took all the blessings, the birthright, and now he's the man. He thought himself to be wise. That's the amazing part. That's the irony of the story. A lot of times when I think I'm too smart, I don't realize how foolish I am. I see myself in the mirror and I tell, oh, you're smart. You're really smart. And God smiles and says, oh no, you're foolish, really foolish. I can get it done this way. And God said, no, this won't work it out. And then I go ahead doing that, trying to take the blessings, receive it, get it for myself. God said, no, you are a wretched sinner. So now what happened? He was trying to get the blessings, the household, everything for himself. Next verse, he had to run for his life. Mama said, baby, you are so nice. You're the apple of my eye, but run away because your brother is after you and he's planning to kill you. Now dad is angry. Older brother is angry. And he is in a fix. He has to run for his life. He was the darling of the family. Every time the youngest is always the darling. He's always held close. This is Jacob. Mother dearly loved him and he was great. And now at the age of 18, he even still puts his head on his mother's lap and sleeps. And mom really loves him. But now has to run for his life. And mother said, boy, run away. Go to your uncle. And he may help you. So he has to run overnight and did not even have a chance to catch a pillow for himself. Or take a camping tent, or can have a sleeping bag for himself. Poor guy had to run for his life. He's running for Beersheba and going to Haran, where his uncle lived. Came to a place where he's dark tired, cannot even run anymore, had no food, had no water, so tired, sits under a tree. Oh boy. This life, this decision of mine, this act of mine has really brought me into this place. I don't know what to do, where to go. I don't have GPS in my phone. I can go running to my uncle. I don't even have the Greyhound bus I can catch and go to my uncle's house. I don't even have flight tickets. There's nobody who's kind of even helping me, giving me a ride. I'm in trouble. He's dog tired, sits under the tree, and he's so tired, uses a stone for the pillow. Uses a stone for the pillow and goes off to sleep. Anybody ever tried using a stone as a pillow? It's not comfortable, believe me. You go and try that, it's not comfortable. It's hurting. In India, sometimes when you're traveling in the train, because there are people everywhere. In India, people are no problem. And people are the greatest problem, In India, people are no problem because they're everywhere. And because they're everywhere, people are big problem. So even when you travel in the train and you have your berth, the plank that you sleep on, you can't leave your shoes down there because somebody would come, pick them up and say thank you and would go. So you get off the train without shoes. And it's no fun. So what we do is sometimes when we're traveling the train and I am trying to sleep or I want to lie down, I would take off my shoe and put it under my head. So it's safe. That helps as a pillow and it is safe too. This man used stone as a pillow. I don't know how tired he was, but in a minute's time, he started snoring loud. Gone. He was really tired. And as he was asleep, he saw a dream. He saw a vision, a dream that kind of scared him. It was a very weird dream. You know what? He fell asleep, and in his sleep, he saw a huge ladder. A huge ladder. The top of the ladder is touching the heavens. The top of the ladder is touching the heavens, and the other part is on the ground. And he's asleep, he's seeing that huge ladder touching the heavens and connecting the earth. And he's kind of amazed, surprised, and to his surprise, he saw angels descending and ascending on that ladder. Angels ascending and descending on that ladder. Whoa! He woke up from the sleep. He's scared. He's sweating. He's tired. He's terrified. What is this happening? The angels ascending and descending on that ladder? What is this ladder? And then he realized this. Oh, whatever I have learned, I have studied, I know angels have wings, you know? Angels have wings. And Bible records this. Angels have 3 sets of wings. 6 wings. Some angels have 2 wings. You can ask Seraphim about that. He too had wings initially, right, sir? But something happened in Yuma. The wings were gone. But yeah, angels have wings. That's true from the Bible. Bible says by 2 they would cover their feet lest they have walked a dirty walk. Angels. By 2 they cover their feet. By 2 they cover their face. And by 2 they fly. So if somebody would have all these wings, why would they need the ladder? You know, if you have an elevator, you got to go 6 stories high. If you're not a fitness freak, you would use why to use the ladder? Let's use that's easy. And angels, why, sir? Why do you use these ladders? You can fly. Oh, maybe these angels need servicing for their wings. Maybe they need Vidol. Maybe they need some lubricant. Maybe wings are not really working well, and they need to go to the gas station or service station, get them fixed again. Maybe the wings are getting rusty now. Some repair is needed in heavens. No, that's not the case. Then what? Looking to the angels ascending and descending, he realized, oh, angels can fly. But ascending and descending on these ladders, angels are trying to explain me something. They're trying to show me something. You know, when a child goes to the school for the first time and he's taught how to write an A, and writing an A becomes a challenge for him. He's kind of 4 years old, and teacher has just helped him to write an A, and he comes and writes A, B, and C, everything the very first day. Is that the story in America? He comes back and starts writing A, B, C, D, capital and small both. No, it's hard. It's challenging for the child to write an A. He's not even able to hold the pencil in the right way. So you know what? You try and help them, and you tell them, see, this dot is grandma's house. Right? This dot is grandma's house. And this is your house. So from here, we walk like this to grandma's house. And from there, you go back to your school. So from grandma's house, you go to your school and to your house. And from your house, you come back to your school. 1 and 2, 1 and 2. And then you cut. That's an A. Right? So the child is trying to do that. Okay, from my grandpa's house, I go to my grandma's house. And from there, I come back to my school. And then there is a cut. That's an A. And even if the child is not able to do it, you know what? The parents, especially the mothers, fathers are not that good enough to do that. Mothers would kind of hold the child's hand and help him join the grandpa's house to their own house. And then bring the child's hand to the school. You hold their hand to learn them to write. You do it by yourself and you teach them. In this story, he realized the angels are kind of trying to teach me that you can walk on this ladder. You can climb on this ladder. This is strong enough. A ladder that goes into heaven. These angels descending and ascending are kind of inviting me, telling me, hey, you can do it. You can do it. You can come into the presence of God. You have the access into heaven. Who, me? Me, Jacob? A sinner? A cheater? A liar? A wretched like me? Can use these steps, this stairway, to come into the presence of God? Is that for real? Is that for true? He's up from the sleep. He realized, oh, I've been a sinner. I've been a liar. I've been a cheater. But God of heaven is giving me a second chance. God is allowing me to come back into His presence. God is still not kicking me out. This ladder is inviting me to come back into the presence of God. And reading from the 16th verse, he reads like this from book of Genesis chapter 28. And if you start from the 16th verse, it reads like this. Somebody help doing that, please, if you can. Chapter 28, verse 16. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of this. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is none other than the house of God. You know where? In the middle of nowhere. In a desert place. Under a tree. With a stone under his head. He's saying, this is the house of God. You know what is house of God? Any place where you would see the glorious throne. Any place where you would see the presence of God. Any place where you had an encounter with God. That place turns into the house of God. How awesome is this place? God is in this place and I was not aware. This is the house of God. And then he adds to it and said, this is the house of God and this is the gate of heaven. We don't die and we go to heaven. No, that's not true. When you are alive and the day you start coming to the house of God, you make a pledge that I will be in the house of God. Me, my family, my kids will remain in the house of God. That's the day you start entering into heaven. You don't have to die to go to heaven. I believe every Christian, every believer who starts worshiping God, who starts honoring God, who starts coming to the house of God, you have already stepped into heaven. Me, sinner, cheater, liar, yes, heavens with open arms invite you. People in this world would judge you. But I thank God there is somebody who still is ready to receive you. And that's the house of God. That's the church. To me, the house of God is the glorious throne. What a privilege for me to come again into the presence of God. What a privilege for me to be in the house of God, worshiping God, serving God. Because God has prepared a ladder for you. I believe church is a ladder that allows a sinner like me, that allows a liar like me, that allows an angry man like me, that allows a foolish like me to come back into His presence. This is what the church is. I'm just trying to help you understand what God thinks about the church. It is an institution on the planet Earth that helps us to come into the presence of God. That helps us to come, that helps us to walk on the stairway to heaven. That prepares the ground for us to be in heaven. I believe this is the best thing that I can do to my family, to my kids, to my children. Introduce them to the church. You try and teach them how to drive. You try and teach them how to eat with fork and spoon. You try and teach them how to dress themselves. I was 14 years old and it was hard for me to tie my shoelace. I would try and do it and would kind of tie one thing first and then loosen it and then put the other string into it and then they would try it. At the age of 14, I literally learned. My mom helped me, my elder sister helped me to tie the shoelace correctly. We try and teach our kids to do so many things correctly. I believe, above all, we need to teach our kids to be in the house of God. Because that is something that will be with them forever. They can learn to eat by fork and spoon elsewhere too. They can learn so many things by themselves. But one thing that as parents, I need to deposit in them is the fear of God and the love of God. To me, the house of God is a glorious throne, exalted on an exalted platform. And Lord, let it be so that we can honor the house of God. Do not take the house of God for granted. It's something honorable. I like this man whose name is Nehemiah. If you ever talk about the house of God, the church, Nehemiah is a guy we need to learn about. He is working in a foreign land. He's got a good job. He's working overseas. And that too, he is a government servant. He's got a good salary. He stands by the king. He is the king's server. He need nothing. One day he had people come from his nation, from Jerusalem, from Israel, and he said, how's the land? How is the house of God? How's things in Jerusalem? And they said, oh, it's not good. The house of God has been broken. The walls are being put down. The gates have been burned. And this man was kind of upset. He was so upset that he started crying. And next morning when he goes back to the job, even king saw the face and said, oh, what happened? Are you sick? Because in those days, it was not allowed or it was not possible for the cupbearer to stand there with a long or a hoarse face. You got to be in the presence of the king, be happy, be joyous, and serve him joyfully. This was a job that was very responsible. But this man couldn't help himself. He had red eyes. His face was swollen. King asked him, what happened? Are you sick? No, everything is fine. No, I'm fine. Have you ever tried covering your sickness? Have you ever tried covering your pain, sorrow? And people somehow get to know it. No, there's something wrong. No, everything is fine. No, baby, something is wrong. No, dear, something is not. Mothers generally do. You cannot hide it from them. People, those who love you, they realize something is wrong. No, something is wrong. And then he said, yeah, the reason is the house of God has been burnt. The walls have fallen and I want to go and build them. Why do you want to go? Just send some money. No, I want to go and build it. I'll take the money, I'll take your permission, and I need some people to go with me. Fine, go ahead. King loved him and said, go, do it. And Bible says in 2nd chapter, verse 12 in the book of Nehemiah, he went there and he was not even able to sleep that night comfortably. He had all the royal facilities for himself. The royal guest house. Everything was good. Amazing bed. But it records like this, that he got up in the middle of the night. And he did not tell anybody what the Lord has put in his heart for the house of God. He got up in the middle of the night and he did not disclose it to anybody what the Lord has put into his heart for the house of God. Because God has been looking for some people on whose heart he can put something about the house of God. We all have plans for our own house. We all have plans for our own vehicles. We all have plans for our own family, for our own children. But God is looking for somebody who is concerned about the house of God. And I'm so grateful I'm standing in Legacy Church and preaching this word because I know there are people, those who have taken this burden for the house of God. Something was dropped in your heart by God. And blessed is he who can respond to it. Coming to the New Testament, before we would finish, I just want to tell you the real value of the house of God. the real understanding of the house of God. Luke chapter 13. Now we come to the New Testament. Jesus is kind of trying to help them understand what exactly the house of God is. Luke chapter 13. And in the 6th verse, Jesus is giving a parable. Jesus is teaching a parable in Luke chapter 13, starting from the 6th verse. And it reads like this. Yeah, somebody please help me reading that. Anybody? Luke chapter 13, verse 6.
And he told this.
Yeah.
And he told this parable. A man had a fig tree.
Jesus is talking right now. This is Jesus, the teacher, and he is kind of in his class right now, and he is giving this parable. And he said, a man had a fig tree, yeah,
In his vineyard.
planted in his vineyard. Is that right? A fig tree in his vineyard, or fig tree in a fig garden? Vineyard. Maybe Luke was a doctor and he could not get it right. So he never knew a lot of things about plantation and vegetation agriculture. So he wrote it like that. You know what vineyard is? Where you grow grapes. Vineyard is something where you grow grapes. Sir, oh Jesus, poor carpenter, he did not understand. He kind of mixed it up, not realizing that fig trees do not grow in vineyard. Grapes grow in vineyard and fig trees grow in a fig garden. Okay. Ever seen a fig tree? Yeah. I had a fig tree grow in my backyard. And fig trees do not need a lot of care. They grow by themselves. Got big leaves. And strong trees can grow anywhere, can even grow by a drain. I got a chance to go to Israel. I saw these fig trees grow on the roadside. There are many vineyards, but not many fig gardens, because these fig trees can grow anywhere. They are not really bothered by the pollution and by all things that are happening. Even the animals can come and scratch themselves by the fig tree. Right? You won't see a gardener coming and trying to prune the fig tree, take care of it. No, it's growing by itself. No problems. Pollution, heat, dust. Okay, fine. I'll handle myself. On the other hand, for a vine, for a grape plant, you got to be careful. You got to have a vine dresser at all times. If you know about vineyard, you need to have a proper cover on it, because if there is extra sun, you will ruin the grapes. If there is extra rain, the grapes would be destroyed. So you need to have a perfect climate, perfect rain, perfect heat, and you got to take a lot more care compared to the fig tree, because it's a vine, it's a wine plantation, it's a vineyard. Nobody cares for the fig tree. Let him live the way he is. He can take care of himself. Fine. Dust, all right. Heat, all right. Water, all right. Somebody comes and waters it, fine. Nobody comes, takes any care of that, okay, fine. Let it be like that. You know, Jesus was not wrong. Paul was not mixed up. Pastor Rangel is not reading it wrong. It's true. It's about two different plants, the fig tree and the vineyard. You know what happened? This fig tree is me. This fig tree is me. I was planted by the roadside. I lived my life the way I want. Hurt, grieved, troubled, in pollution, in drugs, in sickness, in heat, and nobody ever cared for me. But one day, His grace has found me just as I am. His grace has found me just I am. And I thank God, to this ugly, wild fig tree, the favor was shown. And He uprooted me from the roadside. He uprooted me from that drain. He uprooted me from that wild place. He uprooted me from the desert area. And you know what? His loving grace, His mercy, His unfailing love has brought me and planted me into His vineyard, into His garden. Now I am the fig tree planted in the house of God, in His vineyard. Amazing grace. Lord, your love is so good. I was not trying to find Jesus. I was not running to know who God is, but I thank God, God found me. When I was in my world, I was living my life in sin, in sickness, in threats, in disease. He found me and has brought me and planted me in His vineyard. So, a fig tree in His vineyard. But the sad part of the story is, a fig tree is planted in the vineyard. The master came, and he's been coming for past 3 years. The master came to find some fruit in this fig tree. In this fig tree on which the mercy was shown, in this fig tree upon which the grace was shown, on this fig tree where prayers were made, on this fig tree where people cared for this fig tree. But the irony of the story is, even now, it is not giving fruit. Being planted in the house of God, people have been praying for you. They've been watering you. They've been doing all the possible things that were needed with the vines. So it has been done to you. But still, this fig tree is not fruitful. Sometimes I act exactly like this. So much grace, so much mercy, so much compassion has been poured upon my life. But I'm still unfruitful. Nobody's blessed from my life. I come and occupy space in the house of God, but I do not show any grace to anybody. Nobody can be blessed from my life. I need to check myself. So much grace, so much love, so much concern, so much prayers have been poured into my life. I was all by myself, crying, hurting, in hospital, in pain, in sorrow. God showed mercy and brought me in. But still, I am as I am, out there and even now. You know what happened? Master was angry and he said, cut it down. That's what he says. For the tree that does not bear fruit, his word is, cut it down. You remember the story in the 21st chapter of book of Matthew? There was another fig tree that was planted by the road. You know? And he went there to find some fruits in that. Bible says, except leaves, he found nothing. And he said, oh great, no problem, be blessed. No. He cursed that tree. And Bible records this in the 19th verse, immediately it withered. Whoa, disciples were kind of amazed and shocked. What happened? Immediately it withered. A tree that bare no fruit, and Jesus went in to find some fruit into that. A fig tree was withered immediately. On the other hand, in the Luke chapter, in the Gospel of Luke, in 13th chapter, we see a fig tree that has been there for 3 seasons. And this is what Master says, I've been coming here for past 3 seasons and I have not found any fruit in that. And let's cut it down. And still it is there. What happened? Jesus, did the principles of Bible change? What happened, Jesus? Are you kind of biased? Or are you kind of trying to bless him more? And now we see there is kind of a bit imbalance. What's that? You know what's that? There is a difference in those fig trees. Yeah, fig trees have same leaves. Fig trees have same fruit. Fig trees would have same stem and same wood. But the difference is, this fig tree is by the roadside. The other fig tree is now in the house of God. In the world, I would have been destroyed, cut down, withered. But I'm still in health. I'm still blessed. I still have my job. I still being loved. Still, my family has been intact. The only difference is now I am in the house of God. There is somebody praying for me. Maybe your pastor, maybe your wife, maybe some uncle, maybe some auntie, maybe some leader is still praying for you. You should have withered. You should have been cursed because there was no fruit. But I am not cursed. I'm still being nourished. I'm still being watered. You know why? The difference is the house of God that gives me another chance to come into the presence of God. That gives me another opportunity to climb those stairs of grace. Gives me another opportunity to come into the presence of God. Oh, fig tree, be careful where you are planted. In the world, the condemnation comes, and before you would realize, I would wither down. But in the house of God, there is grace. In the house of God, there is love. In the house of God, there is care. That's what the word says. Sparrows have found their nest, and swallow has made their abode in the house of God, for they know it's not only about themselves, but even their children are safe. Even the small birdies are safe in the house of God. How much more it is for me and for my family to be in the house of God. Let's close our eyes and pray. Thank you, Jesus.